everyone, welcome to an India Today special broadcast that comes to you on day 33 of the Ukraine-Russia conflict from Ukraine's capital Kyiv. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Over the course of the next half hour, we get you the details and the latest on day 33 of this very intense battle between Russia and Ukraine. And why intense? Because Russian artillery pounding rocket and missile attacks in Ukraine have intensified in the past 24 hours. There have been heavy rocket and missile attacks in some areas. There is also apprehension that this is likely to increase over the course of the next half hour. We get you details, including Ukraine's President Zelensky now talking about remaining neutral and not joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
Попереду і новий раунд переговорів, бо ми шукаємо миру, реально, без затягування. Як мені доповіли, є можливість і потреби для очної зустрічі вже на території Туреччини. Це непогано. Подивимось на результат. Наші пріоритети у переговорах відомі. Суверенітет, територіальна цілісність України не підлягають сумніву, дієві гарантії безпеки для нашої держави обов'язкові. Очевидна і наша мета – мир і якнайшвидше відновлення нормального життя в рідній нашій державі. І сьогодні той день, коли знову і знову переконуюсь, наскільки далеко ми від Російської Федерації. Уявіть, вони там в Москві переполошилися через мої інтерв'ю російським журналістам, тим із них, хто може дозволити собі говорити правду. Коли журналісти вже готувалися до публікації нашого інтерв'ю, ми говорили з ними сьогодні в день, російське цензурне відомство вийшло з погрозами. Так і написали, вимагають відмовитись від публікації розмови. Це було б смішно, якби не було б так трагічно. Знищили свободу слова в своїй державі, намагаються зруйнувати сусідню державу. Зображають себе глобальним гравцем, а самі при цьому бояться відносно короткої розмови з кількома журналістами. Що ж, якщо така реакція, значить ми все правильно робимо, значить вони нервують.
So President Zelensky is extremely disappointed. President Zelensky is actually talking about how the North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries have been playing ping pong. They sometimes promise the fighter jets but don't deliver. They promise the tanks but they don't deliver. And he has repeatedly made this point that he requires a large number of tanks and armored personnel carriers and fighter jets and surface-to-air missiles, S-300 systems to take on the Russian forces. While NATO has made big promises, none of these major offensive weapons have been delivered. He, of course, is getting a steady supply of the Javelin anti-tank guided missiles and the Stinger surface-to-air missiles and a large amount of small arms and ammunition. But those are defensive weapons. Can he carry on the battle with that? Well, his morale is high. You can hear the shelling in the backdrop. The shelling is now almost, in some pockets, quite relentless. But there are a number of volunteers who continue to trickle into this country to fight. Now, India Today, while we were coming into Kyiv from Lviv on board the train, we met up with some American war veterans. They've fought, some of them have fought in Iraq, some of them have fought in Afghanistan, and they are volunteering. They're retired military personnel. They are volunteering not just to train the Ukrainian army and militia in urban warfare, but some of them, like Michael I spoke to, and Marshall, another private who's a combat specialist, they insist they want to go to the front lines and fight, as they say, for democracy. We're currently at the Kyiv railway station. There's curfew in place. If you notice, it's pitch dark all around, and we have to stay here till 7 in the morning. But here I bumped into Marshall and John. Marshall is from the United States of America. John is from Canada. And gentlemen, what brings you here?
To help the people of Ukraine.
And how do you intend helping them?
I feel like with my military background, training and experience that I've gathered while serving, I can utilize here. Teaching.
So, Marshall, incidentally, is a combat veteran. He's had extensive tours of duty overseas with the U.S. Armed Forces. John, you're helping as a volunteer. What
Correct.
do you do?
So I'm actually bringing donations from Canada. I'll be volunteering at the Menica border crossing, just helping refugees. I passed through there a couple days ago. They definitely need all the assistance that they can get, 100%.
So, what kind of training will you give here? I mean, will you be a part of the foreign legion? Will you be a part of combat, or will you only train?
I really don't know yet. Maybe both, one or the other. I hope whatever difference I make, it's a positive impact.
This actually could have an impact on your life. I mean, the Russian forces on the other side, and you'll be fighting as an American citizen fighting in Ukraine.
Yes, it's very possible.
And I quickly now want to cut across to India Today's news contributor Rajesh Pawar, who also joins us from Kyiv. Rajesh, the situation on ground right now where you are, there was some intensification of shelling in certain areas that's being reported by the Kyiv Independent and several other newspapers. What are you picking up? What were the last 12 hours for you like? Me a moment as I try and reestablish this link with Rajesh Pawar in just a moment. But before I get you, Rajesh Pawar, let me also get you the latest from Mariupol. Remember, Mariupol has repeatedly been targeted by the Russian forces. Russian forces are now virtually in the town, inside the town. They continue to battle pockets of resistance, taking on the Azov battalion, very, very loyal to President Zelensky and his regime. But the situation on ground is, according to the leadership here in Kyiv, more than 40,000 people have been forcibly taken across to the Donbass region or the Russian side. Remember, Mariupol is extremely significant, not only because it's an industrial hub, a coal hub, but also because it gives access to the Sea of Azov. And that sea, that access to sea has been cut off as far as Ukraine is concerned. From multiple other flanks also, the Black Sea fleet of the Russian forces, they are trying to ensure that Ukraine does not have access to sea and becomes landlocked. People in Mariupol are facing this brunt of this attack. What they are saying is the information that we are getting, 40,000 have been moved to the Russian side. Others are trying to move to other safer locations. More reactions from Mariupol in this report. Now, in Mariupol, the situation is grim. It's becoming a little tense even in Lviv. Now, Lviv in the west of the country was so far considered safe, out of harm's way. But right now, Lviv too is being targeted. Lviv is also the access route into Kyiv from west. When we were in Lviv, the tension was high also because people feared that the way Mariupol was targeted, the way Kherson was targeted, the way Kyiv is likely to be targeted in the days ahead, Lviv will also bear the brunt of a Russian artillery and missile assault. A fuel dump was targeted, and do remember, this is extremely crucial. An army requires a lot of fuel to carry the battle on, and Russia is systematically targeting fuel dumps. We've been told that Germany, Poland and the United States will provide diesel to Ukraine to make up for the deficit of diesel in this country right now, because systematically fuel dumps are being targeted and fuel is required for tanks, for armored personnel carriers, for the entire war machinery to move forward. Rule on ground here is first right on fuel is of the defense forces, second right of militia. Whatever remains is then given to people. While they're getting petrol, diesel is a big threat, and it's the diesel fuel dumps that are systematically being targeted on ground.
Russia's offensive in Ukraine has moved to an even deadlier pace. The assault is moving from the east, close to Russian border, to the far west city, Lviv, bordering NATO member Poland. The largest city in western Ukraine was once bustling, providing safe haven for hundreds of thousands of people fleeing the war, raging in the troubled eastern parts. But is no longer the safe zone, immune from Russian airstrikes. In the last 24 hours, the city witnessed one of the fiercest attacks that Western Ukraine has experienced by far. 2 rockets struck a fuel depot on the city's eastern outskirts, and 2 rockets later hit a military factory. Followed by high-precision cruise missiles striking an infrastructure facility. Russia showing clear indications that it has expanded your screen capture the panic that gripped the city as missiles rained in. Citizens ran for their lives as they watched the deadly smoke engulfing the region. Civilians huddled inside bunker to escape the wrath of Putin's ferocious assault.
We were sitting in our car for a couple of minutes, and then we heard this very loud, I don't know how to say it, when rocket just came. After a couple of seconds, maybe 30 seconds, second bombing, and everyone left to the shelters.
The attacks had caused significant damage to infrastructure facilities, blowing out windows at a local school, leading to widespread destruction. The attack on the western city came exactly at a time US President Joe Biden was just across in Poland. The US President was exactly at a distance of only 400 kilometers from the site where Putin's missile hit.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. Let us resolve to put the strength of democracies into action to thwart the designs of autocracy. Let us remember that the test of this moment is the test of all time.
Rescue teams are having their hands full, spending all night extinguishing raging fire and minimizing fallout of the attacks, which raged a fuel shortage, leading the massive flames.
In the fog of war, it is unclear on day 32 if Ukraine is able to strike back and hard at the Russian strongholds. Ukraine has also insisted it's mounted a series of counterattacks in the Kherson region in the south, and that is where the Russians have completely cut off Ukraine from the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea. From Mariupol to Kherson, the Russians once again trying to consolidate their position even as Ukraine's forces try to strike back. With cameraman Lalit Mohan Joshi in Lviv, Ukraine, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. And India Today is the only channel giving you 360-degree perspective on this big story and reporting all sides of the story. I'm in Kyiv. India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan joins us from Donetsk. And Geeta, what's the situation on ground in Donetsk? We were in Mariupol on this side. We are getting reports that there was intense firing and shelling. What are you picking up on the other side, from the Russian side of this conflict?
Well, Gaurav, this is the city has it's within the radius of 80 to 100 kilometers. Marinka is the new flashpoint in the western part, northwestern part of Donetsk, and Mariupol in the southwestern part. So both these cities are facing heavy firing, heavy shelling. In fact, we can hear explosions from that far away because there are gunfights and battles underway even in the outskirts. So the situation very difficult right now for both sides, for the Ukrainian side as also for the Russian side, along with the People's Militia of the Donbas region. Fierce fight actually happening in Marinka right now, Gaurav, we're being told. While Mariupol is a place where the Russians have bombarded and shelled, and we've seen the kind of destruction. We will try going to Marinka to show what the situation is on the ground over there. Both both sides trying to gain control of the areas. There have been evacuation process that has still been underway in Mariupol, not over completely, but Marinka is a town right now that is facing the fiercest gun battle, and we'll have to wait and see what the impact of that gun battle between the two sides is. Really, it is a very dangerous place because it's not just about shelling. It's a man-to-man gun battle that is also underway in Marinka.
Okay. You know, this also is an indication that the Ukrainian armed forces are not giving up without a fight. They're also fighting for every inch of territory as the Russians try to advance forward. The Ukrainians are not retreating. Of course, due to the superior firepower that the Russians have. We were told, Geeta, that on day one of this conflict, they had 30% of Donetsk and Luhansk in their control, or the Donbass region in their control. Now the Russians claim that they're virtually in control of 90%. Is that actually the case on ground?
Well, on ground, the claims certainly remain the same. Hard to confirm, but yes, at least more than 70% of the Donbass region, Donetsk and Luhansk, is under Russian control. There are still some parts. I'm in Donetsk, so I can tell you that there's still some parts in the northern area where the fierce gunfight is underway, where the battle is underway, the battle to take control from the Russian side, from the Donbass side, against the Ukrainian side. So they're not completely in control of those areas, but the difficulties in logistics over here, Gaurav, that I faced was with SIM cards. We are still reporting outside of our hotel because we're still yet to be able to source SIM cards for ourselves. Why is that so? Because they do not use Russian SIM cards and they do not use Ukrainian SIM cards anymore. They have their own telecom company called Phoenix, and Phoenix has sent all the SIM cards to the liberated areas. What are they trying to do with this? They're trying to ensure that there's connectivity of people in the liberated, what they call liberated areas, the ones that they have managed to capture from the Ukrainian side. They're sending SIM cards to those areas to ensure that the people over there are connected with the Donetsk city, with DPR, rather than being connected with Ukraine and with Kyiv.
Okay. That's a very interesting point you make, Geeta. Keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. Geeta Mohan, the only Indian journalist to be reporting from the Donetsk region. And this is getting you the other side of the story. I'm in Kyiv. Geeta Mohan will continue to report from Donetsk, will travel to Luhansk. And the Donbass region, remember, was the first area of conflict between Russia and Ukraine starting the 24th of February. In fact, even before the 24th of February, President Putin had declared Donetsk and Luhansk as independent democratic republics. That time, that was 30% of territory. Now, Geeta Mohan reporting it's almost 70% of the territory in Russian control. What's the situation in that region on day 33 of the conflict? Geeta Mohan with this report.
Ukraine is fighting a two-front war, one with Russian invasion forces and the other with Russian-backed rebels of Donetsk, who call themselves the Donetsk People's Republic, a separatist region which is pitted against the Ukraine rule. As Ukrainians battle it out against Russian aggression, images from southeastern Ukraine tell a different story. India today visited this rebel stronghold of Donetsk to find strong support for Russian President Vladimir Putin and his invasion. In Donetsk, most cars were seen with pro-Russia Z signs. The anti-Ukrainian sign is a call for independence from Ukraine.
Z denotes independence. Russia and the breakaway factions of Donbass region, Donetsk, what they call Donetsk People's Republic, DPR, are together fighting the Ukrainians. And the two signs that they use are signs that Ukraine also recognizes distinctly as being anti-Ukraine, which is V for victory and Z for independence. In Donetsk, you will not see a lot of V signs, you'll see Z. Why? Because the call is for independence. So a lot of cars over here that you see have this sign only saying that they do not want to remain with Ukraine, they want independence.
Russian supporters in downtown Donetsk were also seen paying homage to the lives lost in the Tochka-U missile attack carried out by the Ukrainians on 14th March. More than 20 people were allegedly killed in the attack, which left marks of shelling on residential buildings.
This is the building that got hit, and I'll show you. This is where it landed. 20 people were killed. That's the memory. That's the memory of the people whose lives were lost. And the entire building over here, you can see the marks of shelling. If you see, there are marks of shelling everywhere in the building.
Lately, it's noted that the attacks are even more frequent than before. I talked with some military personnel, and it's totally speculative what I'm going to say. But one possible explanation is that Ukrainian troops, which are stationed in Donetsk, or near Donetsk right now, it's possibly more than 50,000 of them. So it's a huge troop, and possibly they are sending the sort of a message.
The Moscow-backed separatists have ruled the Donbas region for 8 years now. Russia is now using them as tools to gain upper hand in the invasion war.
Will there be a ceasefire? Will there be an end to war? Can there be negotiations where both sides' demands are met and kept? We'll be reporting on that. With which journalist Satya Rautre in Donetsk, Geeta Mohan.
Russia, of course, insists its campaign is continuing as per plan. Russia says it had an aim plus, and as far as the aim is concerned, it's the Donbas region. They're saying that they're moving according to plan, and they haven't deviated from it. The Western media and the West has been saying that Russia had hoped to capture Kyiv. They'd hoped that Kyiv would collapse in the first 24 to 48 hours, if not within the first week. And now the Russian campaign has been bogged down by severe complications and supply chain issues. This is a charge that has been denied by the Russian Ministry of Defense. Will they actually succeed in a regime change here in Kyiv? Will President Zelensky remain in power? Will this country continue to have a North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO-trained army? Let's find out in this report about the claims and counterclaims. And the Russian attacks are relentless, from air, from ground, and even from sea. Take a look at this report as Russian missile boats fired one after the other, 4 caliber missiles, and its devastating effect on ground. They're fighting PGMs, precision guided munition. While the West may claim that PGMs are failing, they're failing to hit their target, they're hitting civilian areas, the Russians insist they are not just moving according to plan, but their missiles are finding their mark.
A brooding night sky over the Black Sea, torn apart by 4 caliber cruise missiles launched from a Russian Navy Buyan M missile boat. Their targets, Ukrainian sites near the country's capital, Kyiv. Capable of hitting targets hundreds of kilometers away with devastating accuracy, the use of caliber cruise missiles signals a shift into the realm of advanced weaponry in the second phase of this war. The Russian Ministry of Defense has flaunted this video of the Iskandar's short-range ballistic missile as well, being used to target a claimed foreign mercenary unit using a Kyiv shopping mall as a reloading base for its rocket units. The third major Russian missile system being used is the Yakhont high-speed cruise missile, seen here being launched against a Ukrainian weapons depot in the western part of the country. The Yakhont is a progenitor of the Indo-Russian BrahMos missile in service with the Indian Armed Forces. And the missile that Russia has used for the first time in combat, the Kinzhal hypersonic air-launched cruise missile, seen here smashing into a Ukrainian underground weapons depot. The Kinzhal is a nuclear-capable weapon that has of course been used only with conventional warheads in Ukraine. Four advanced Russian missile systems, all four being used in anger against Ukraine. The damage they're causing, plain for their makers and the world to see. Of course, there's another Russian missile that's on operational alert amidst this Ukrainian crisis. A weapon stored away secretly inside Russia's Bore-class nuclear ballistic missile submarines. A weapon that will hopefully never be used. The Bulava, a submarine-launched intercontinental range ballistic missile. A Cold War weapon that could bring about the end of the world if ever fired in anger. A weapon whose heightened state of alert has sparked nuclear fears across the world. As Russia's war in Ukraine rumbles forward in its second month, missile power will define the onward march. Bureau Report, India Today.
So it's not just the White House, but even the US Secretary of State has had to contradict, clarify what the US President said. US President, while speaking in Warsaw, Poland, spoke of a regime change in Russia. And this would have raised hackles at the Red Square in Kremlin, that America is talking about changing President Putin's regime. For how long will he remain president? Words to that effect is what President Joe Biden had said about President Putin while he was in Warsaw. Now, Secretary Blinken has clarified that it is not American policy to seek regime change in Russia. Take a look at this report.
Foreign Minister Lapid and U.S. Secretary of State Mr. Antony Blinken.
America's top diplomat on Sunday stated unequivocally that the U.S. in no way sought to remove Russian President Vladimir Putin from power.
As you know, and as you've heard us say repeatedly, we do not have a strategy of regime change in Russia or anywhere else for that matter.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken made the clarification after U.S. President Joe Biden said this about the Russian leader during a speech in Warsaw.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Those 9 words, off the cuff and not part of the president's prepared remarks, sparked a wave of scrutiny as to whether Biden inadvertently signaled a new American policy. Blinken, during a visit to Israel, explained that Biden was referring to Putin's power over his neighboring nations, not his power within Russia.
I think the President, the White House, made the point last night that, quite simply, President Putin cannot be empowered to wage war or engage in aggression against Ukraine or anyone else.
A White House official also clarified that Biden's comments did not represent a shift in Washington's position in the war.
In this case, as in any case, it's up to the people of the country in question. It's up to the Russian people. But what we do have is a strategy to strongly support Ukraine. We've been doing that and rallying partners and allies around the world to do that.
But for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, those allies need to do more. And on Sunday, he called for more weapons and support.
It is tanks for our state. It is missile defense. It is anti-ship weapons. That is what our partners have. That is what is just gathering dust there.
The United Nations Human Rights Office says 1,119 civilians had so far been killed since Russia began what it calls a special military operation in Ukraine.